success loves speed. That's the biggest difference between people that's really successful and people that's not. Other people, they want to just wait. It's not perfect. They want to try to get more money.
We started with an iPhone and an idea, and we're able to do a live show in Accra, Ghana in 4 years.
Yeah, Rashad and Troy Millings are behind the brand Earn Your Leisure.
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 Two incredible guys who are changing the game of finance.
We've had partnerships with a number of guests who've been on the show. Steve Harvey.
Yes,
you know.
yes.
People are afraid to fail. Failure is a part of the process. You cannot get where you're going without failing.
If you want to go short, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Your experience is going to be dictated by the people that you know. One person can go somewhere and have a terrible experience. Somebody else can go somewhere and have a great experience. But what usually is different is that they knew the right people and the other people just went it by themselves trying to figure it out. We're only stronger together. Divide and conquer. Africa, it was through colonialism. America, it was through slavery. But it's the same thing. You try to make one group feel like they're better than each other. And ultimately, you just keep people fighting and nobody ever goes anywhere.
You guys are stars, man.
It's amazing.
We're here to put an end to this jollof rice debate between Nigeria and Ghana. That's why we really came.
Positive peer pressure. If you're around people that's actually doing something, then you yourself will want to do something as well. If you're around people that's doing nothing, then it's easy to just fall into that negativity.
We were doing this, people were like, we need to protect them at all costs. And I was like, protect us? They were like, yeah, you're actually liberating people, you're freeing them, and you're freeing their mindsets. And that could be dangerous. And it was to make sure that financial education was something that could be spread throughout the world. So we saw the impact that we had in the United States. We've done shows in Toronto, and we saw how people gravitated toward it. And we've been in London, Nigeria, now Ghana. It's really, really uplifting. We really feel like this message is something that people need to hear because it only helps humanity.
Hello guys, and welcome back again to another amazing episode, and this is the Diaspora Transition episode where we have dialogues and conversation with people living in the diaspora who relocated or even visited back and forth. We asked them why you decided to move back to the continent or even considering Africa as one of your destination places. Come visit. And today we do have a very, very special guest. I wouldn't have imagined to have this powerful people on my platform, but I do have them, and they go by Rashad and Troy from Earn Your Leisure. So without further ado, welcome on the show.
Thank you for having us, man. Appreciate it.
I can't believe this is happening, but it is happening. People are watching you, and I know you guys are right everywhere. If someone is watching and they don't know who you guys are, can you please briefly introduce yourself?
Yeah, Rashad and Troy. So we have a platform called Earn Your Leisure. It's a business, investing, financial literacy platform, media company, where we produce content, we do events all over the world, and it's all based around entrepreneurship and investing, something that started 5 years ago and really accelerated, especially during the pandemic. And now, we have a global reach. We just did a show in Accra yesterday, which was great. So thank you. So that's pretty much our journey as far as who we are at Earn Your Leisure.
Yeah, we lifelong friends. Grew up in a small town. Background in education. I was a teacher. He was a financial advisor. Just fate would have it that we would be teaching financial education. So it kind of made sense. We realized that people didn't have it at every age group. I was working with kids. He was working with adults, and both were kind of missing that information. So the platform came at the right time for our people. I
like that. One of the things that I really appreciate about you is the collaboration between two friends, and then building a business out of that.
Yeah.
Now, there's a saying out there, we can work together as black people, but you guys are doing it and making it bigger and bigger. What do you have to say to that ideology?
It's all we know. Family is all we know. Before there was a business, there was a brotherhood. And so I've watched him, through middle school, high school, go to college, pursue athletics, to start his career in financial advising, the same thing. He's watched me go to school, go to teaching. But we always had a knack to give back to our community. And so that's where we kind of found the niche of, how could we give back and what would be something that was impactful. And so Earn Your Leisure came about. It was like, all right, well, we've been working together in a relationship as a brotherhood. We started some businesses that didn't work, and it was like, well, let's try another one. And this one, added so much value to our community that it kind of spawned into something that is life-changing. And when we had to figure out how we were going to scale, we could have looked out and took resumes and interviewed people, but the natural thing was us to look within and see how we could find people within our own families, our own circles that we can employ and help stimulate the economy, and in turn they would stimulate ours. And so family's all we know. That's how we hire.
I like that. Now I will say Akwaba. Akwaba means welcome.
Yes.
You did Market Monday here in Ghana, a tree house, and it was sold out. Now you already did one in Nigeria. How did it come about, the ideology of bringing Invest First to the continent? How did that come about?
Yeah, no, we was just thinking about that last year. You know, we have a great relationship with Ally Bank, who sponsored this, and you know, they wanted to have a different type of relationship when it comes to sponsoring than they previously had done before. So, you know, we just had to come up with some creative ideas, and the world tour idea was something that, you know, nobody had really done before in our space, financial literacy. And, you know, we like to travel, we like to touch different places anyway. So, thought that that was just, you know, something that was a no-brainer. So, you know, we presented it to them, they liked it, and we picked the cities that were major markets for us already. So that we haven't been to, some like LA and Chicago, but then London, a city that we've been to a few times, we knew that that's a great market, so we wanted to come back and do a Market Mondays. Toronto was a city that we hadn't been to, so we knew that was a great market for us as well. And then we wanted to, you know, do something in Africa, so we did a networking event in Nigeria a few years ago. But you know, all the energy is around Ghana right now, so we felt like, you know, if we're going to do something in Africa, Ghana would be, you know, the best place to do it. So that's how that came about.
But you said the market is ready. What do you mean by that? Elaborate to people, because on the other hand, people don't believe that Ghana is ready for, you know, businesses, business stuff like what you guys have. Elaborate on what you mean by the market is ready and stuff like that.
Yeah, I just feel like, you know, right now is a good time as far as like the music and everything. Africa's going through a rebranding phase. You know, it was painted very negatively for a long period of time. Now people starting to see it differently, and Ghana has positioned themselves as like kind of the entry point for especially, you know, African Americans and different people in the diaspora to come to. They've done a great job with the year to return. They've really embraced foreigners coming in, black foreigners coming in, and, you know, stable government, low crime rate, a variety of different factors that make it comfortable for foreigners to travel to. And so this is a place where, you know, you see a lot of opportunity, and you see people, you know, coming here, moving here. So definitely I feel like it's a good time to you know, really focus in on the continent, but especially this country, Ghana.
Like that.
They said it was the gateway. Last night, that was one of the things they said. Ghana is the gateway. And so the narrative is changing, and it helps when you have platforms like yourselves, platforms like us, where we can now shape a narrative. Right? For so long, it was charity, it was poverty, and now it's economic empowerment, and now it's development, and now it's investing. And so, if we can shape that message and bring it back, you know, to the States and bring it back to the Western part of the world, we're going to do our part, because it's tremendous opportunity here. You know, it's the last place, and we were having a conversation last night, but it's one of the last places where you can see growth, and you can see expansion, and you can see development and untapped potential. So, you know,
what are some of the untapped potentials you've noticed so far? I
mean, the first thing we looked at was the population, how young it is. And, you know, when you see population that's young, and is eager, if you provide education, provide resource, I mean, there's no telling to the limit of things that can be explored and be invented or created. So that was the first thing, right? From an educational standpoint, like what happened if we provided what we do as far as financial education to a population that, you know, kind of was left out the conversation. We saw what happened in the United States when we did it. What happened if we came to the continent and do it? And so again, Ghana was kind of like that gateway for us.
Yeah. I like that. Now, one of the events you did in, I think, Miami, if I'm not mistaken, had more than 20,000 people to attend.
Atlanta,
sorry.
Yeah.
That's crazy for me to think about. Now, you did that, you know what I'm saying? You think sooner or later we're going to see something like that happen on the continent?
Yeah,
at that capacity?
Yeah, for sure. You know, it's just a matter of time. Invest Fest, what you're referring to, that's, you know, probably the biggest event in the world when it comes to financial literacy and business. And it takes place in Atlanta every year, so that's a very unique situation. It's a 3-day long event. We have.
I might get an invite to it.
That's too easy.
Sure. We got vendor marketplace. We got musical performances. We got keynote addresses, live podcasts. So it's so many different stuff. So the idea of that was to kind of, you know, how we go into Afrofuture today. You know, have something like that, but based around business and financial literacy. So it takes time to build that framework. But definitely, I feel like, you know, Invest Fest Africa. somewhere on the continent or multiple different places on the continent would be
like
beneficial for sure.
I like that. Now, one of the things that I do on my YouTube channel is try to get more diasporan people to move down here to Ghana to kind of capitalize on the opportunities here, buy land, build something, now that it's very early. And often you get a resistance. People try to they look at Africa like 20 years ago. There's these things that I'm not coming here. But on the other hand, we get other ethnicities coming through, buying all the lands and stuff like that. You are advocating for businesses, invest in this property, see opportunities earlier before they are too late. What do you have to say to all this whole thing with how our people look at Africa and even coming down here?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the narrative play, right? Like we've seen this as not as a place that we can build business, but when you look at the Fortune 500 companies that are here, they've seen it, and that's why they're here, right? You see other countries investing in the infrastructure, but we're not taking part of it, and so that's why it's so important for us to say, no, this is happening. Here's how you can do it. Here's the people you need to know in order to do it, and here's how you can work together to do it. It's really the only way, right? Like we've seen what had happened in the western side of the world in the United States for us. And so again, with this great opportunity, there's great responsibility, and we know that. And so we don't want to come in and push our message. We want to find people that we can create with and work together with to make sure that this is something sustainable, not just for our generation, but for generations to come.
I like that. You mentioned financial literacy. In US, we had Ghanaians, our diaspora, even they live here and they moved to the US. Shortly after, they're able to achieve some wealth for themselves. Build houses, buy cars. On the other hand, in the black community in the US, we still have, even though they are still making relatively $5,000 a month, often that's not conclude to anything. They end up buying Yeezys and all these fancy things and complain that there's not. Why do you think we need financial literacy in our black community? Not just, I know it's not limited to just black, but why do you think it is necessary for us to teach financial literacy in our black communities?
I'll take it from an international standpoint. You want to talk for Americans? Yeah.
I mean, I just feel like it's something that not a lot of people have been taught, and it's something that is vital when you think about it. No matter what you do for a living, everybody's gonna have to live somewhere. Everybody's gonna have to pay taxes. Everybody's gonna have to, raise their family. So these financial topics is something that's broad range, and it is relevant to every single person. So not knowing about finances is something that's extremely hurtful, and that's been a cycle for a long period of time. So to actually change that mindset and actually get people interested in learning and to educate them, I think is pretty essential.
Yeah, and there's some truth to what you're saying, right? When you're talking about people that come to America, right? Like my parents are from Jamaica, right? So I'm first generation, but you see that with African families as well. There's a big focus on education, number one, and number two, the family unit is vitally important. And so we've seen things that happen in our country where that family dynamic is intentionally trying to be deteriorated or broken up, and so that causes problems. Like you said, financial education is something that is life or death, right? Like we can see what happens if we don't have it, and we can see what happens when people they do have it or attempt to get it. And so the goal is always to, number one, have the strong family unit, but have that grit, that determination, and that willpower, to achieve success. Because it looks different for everybody. It looks different for every culture, but we want to make sure that our culture in America, we realize it as well.
I like that. Now, the YouTube channel you guys have has been able to spread your message and what you guys have going on worldwide. Now, let's go back to the beginning of how it came about, Earn Your Leisure. Well, what is the story behind how did that start for you?
Yeah, I mean, it really started with a journey for him. He was creating his own page as a financial advisor. Wanted to be a celebrity in that space because Instagram and social media kind of gave birth to everybody becoming a celebrity in their respective fields. And we were just trying to build a campaign for him. And he wanted a hashtag to go along with the campaign. And, again, we always talk to each other. So I was like, I got a hashtag for you that I think will work. At the time, that was a big thing on social media, right? You follow the hashtag. And so Earn Your Leisure was the hashtag I gave to him. And he was using it for a while. And people were just kind of like using it too. They were like, oh wait, this is great. This feels like some travel campaign. And it was really based on the hard work. It kind of came to my mind because he's a huge LeBron fan. Obviously, I'm a huge basketball fan. And he had that slogan, earn, not given. So everything he did was hard work until he got to the point or the pinnacle I was like, oh, that's perfect. Like, he's earned some of these freedoms. And I was like, all right, that's going to be the slogan. And then we're using that for a while. You know, he started doing interviews. People were like, where's the rest of this interview? We need a long format of that. And so he was like, hey, you want to start a show and podcast? And we're like, all right, let's do it. What are we going to call it? And we came up with a few names, but they, you know, we weren't going to be able to legally get those names, I feel like. And so Earn Your Leisure was something that was ours, that we've been using. And so we went with that, and now, you know, it's a household name.
Yes, it is. It is. And it's global, it's international.
Yeah.
Now, you were saying behind the camera that you said at one point using the iPhones and stuff like that to make videos in the beginning?
Yeah, man, it was an iPhone and an idea. You know, we don't come from a background in broadcasting. We don't come from a background in media or journalism. But we just knew that we wanted to do something, you know, that we felt passionate about, we were educated about, and then we kind of have the conversations about on our own. And so it was like, all right, well, how do we even start a podcast? We don't really listen to any. There's no book on how to do it. And so we just kind of wrote up a list of things that we would need. We would need topics, we would need a place to record, and we would need something to record with. And so, you know, we looked around and we found somebody who was in our neighborhood who had microphones. We were like, all right, bet, we need him. Let's bring him on board. We didn't have cameras at the time, and so we knew that we had something that could record, and that was our iPhones. And so we used, you know, his iPhone, my iPhone, and we had to bring another person in to use theirs to have 3 different angles. And for the first 10 or 11 episodes, that's what we were using. And so that was interesting because it was like the files were so big that I would try to transfer them from my phone to the computer, and it was like, wait, that's what I'm starting to learn about gigabytes, and like this file's too large and I got to chop this up to get. And so it was a learning process, but it's really a story of taking imperfect actions. Right? We could have waited to have a Black Magic, we could have waited to have Komodos, but we didn't. We used what we had. We had shotgun mics, which were like $19. We had iPhones that, you know, we used every day anyway, and so like that was going to be the equipment. And we took it from there, and people got to see that growth from the iPhones to now using professional cameras. And so, you know, they feel like they've been on this journey with us.
Now, one thing that I think I want you to answer this is, you've been able to build a whole business out of that, multi-million dollar business out of you having a platform like YouTube. Now, most content creators often just resort to YouTube alone without having to build a business surrounding it. What advice would you give to a creator who is willing to kind of follow your footsteps on that trajectory?
I mean, yeah, just, you know, use that as a platform to get yourself out there, and as like a billboard. But I think you should always have other streams of income or other business ideas, and YouTube is more so just to kind of, you know, maintain your popularity and maintain your voice to the people. But it's always good to branch out, do different investments, have different other more tangible businesses that don't have to rely strictly on, you know, YouTube. So, you know, I think that that's important. You know, don't look at that as like the end all be all. Look at that as like just the beginning, amplification for other things that you have going on.
I like that. Now, you've interviewed thousands. I don't think you've done 1,000, but definitely hundreds and hundreds of entrepreneurs on your channel.
Yeah,
you have
sure.
a number of how many entrepreneurs you've interviewed? Lots, too much. What would you say is best strong lessons you've learned from interviewing all these entrepreneurs that you're willing to share to the world?
I think you gotta have multiple streams of income. That's important. Off of, you know, just one tree, right? Just find different ways to create different streams of income. That's something that's extremely important. You know, mentorship is important. Learning from other people's mistakes, so you don't make those same mistakes, and always thinking bigger, like thinking about how you can scale. You know, never get satisfied where you're at. If you're doing, you know, something, see how you can 10x it, see how you can 100x it, right? So that's something I think that is extremely important for sure.
Yeah, I think collaboration is something that we've watched on the show from the entrepreneurs that we've sat down with, and we've been able to implement ourselves. Even coming here with Market Mondays, there's a partnership with our brother Ian Dunlap. We've had partnerships with a number of guests who've been on the show. Steve Harvey.
Yes,
you know,
yes, that was crazy.
right, so,
wow.
You know, being able to be in those rooms and realizing the moment, but realizing that it's bigger than just this interview. There's going to be relationships that can be fostered and can be nurtured and can be beneficial in the future. So definitely collaboration is one of those things, especially as entrepreneurs. If you want to go far, go alone. I mean, if you want to go short, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. It's one of those adages, but it's real. Like we've witnessed it and applied it in real life.
Let's talk a bit more on Ghana at the moment. Where next? It was Nigeria, now it's Ghana. Where are you guys going next?
In Africa?
Yeah.
Definitely want to go to South Africa for sure. I've been hearing a lot of good things about South Africa. Been hearing some good stuff about Ethiopia also. East Africa, Zanzibar. Actually, one of my friends,
Wow.
Charlemagne, he hit me. He's in Zanzibar right now, so he sent me videos out there. It looks beautiful out there. But
Yeah.
I think from an opportunity standpoint, South Africa will probably be the next logical place to go.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, on the east side, maybe Kenya
Kenya. Okay.
or Ethiopia
Okay.
Yeah.
or it's variety. Rwanda.
I was gonna say Rwanda.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on out there right now.
A lot of development in Rwanda, and I'd be remiss if we didn't say Senegal. Only,
Senegal, yeah.
only because our brother Abdullah's family's from
Yeah.
there, and obviously, the sentimental value of that and the country itself, be a dope place to go. We almost ended up in Morocco.
Morocco.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
you
almost-
went there. You went there.
When we were going to Nigeria, we had to choose between, or actually going to Egypt, we had to choose between Morocco and Egypt, and it was a vote, and Egypt won, but Morocco was on the list for sure.
I like that. You mentioned a few countries. For business wise, I think you guys are very smart at what you do. You do your research. Let's give this as a gift to entrepreneurs, business owners who are willing to penetrate the market of Africa. What is your top country to suggest to business owners or entrepreneurs who want to move into the business to go to? The top.
Just from the experience, and some of the safety concerns and infrastructure that's here, I would say Ghana.
Ghana.
Just from the standpoint, we've seen it, right? We were in Nigeria, and it was interesting. We were staying at our hotel, and right down the street was a Microsoft building, and I'm like, oh. And then you go down the street, and it's Google, right? It's Microsoft here, there's Google here, and so these companies are here. But again, it becomes the gateway just because of how welcoming it's been since 2018. I think that year was so important to the narrative and the scope of this country that you can imagine where it'll be in 10 years. All right, so let's see what happens by 2028, what it looks like by 2038. I just think that there's a lot of forward momentum, a lot of positivity, a lot of infrastructure and business that is now seeing this as an opportunity. Hopefully, we're part of it and it's not too late. Because again, once we start saying these things, they're coming.
Was it difficult? Did you encounter any challenges trying to establish a market mandate to make it a household thing here in Ghana, like trying to get a location? Do you face any kind of challenges with that?
As far as getting a venue,
Logistics wise, getting the venue, how was it like? Because I've had people who say they want to come down here to contribute, but they
Yeah.
often face some logistics problem, even getting venues and stuff like that.
I think it all comes down to relationships.
Right.
So, we've been able to meet a lot of great people. And a lot of people from Ghana that was trying to get us to come to Ghana for a long time. So when it was time, we just leaned on our relationships,
Right.
asked different people, and it's like one person introduced you to another person, and we meet different people. So we had a lot of great people. We have a woman, her name is Jatalia. She helped us a lot. Abdul from Afrofuture, he helped us a lot. Variety of different people that was had relationships in Ghana or were in Ghana that just opened up doors, opened up opportunities, introduced us to different people. So that part, and that's part of been everywhere we go. We usually lean on our relationships globally, anywhere, Jamaica or Africa or London, Toronto, same thing, same story. Everywhere we go, we kind of know good people there, and that happened in Nigeria as well. We know some great people in Nigeria, so they was able to get us sorted
So you always
out.
have to have people on ground to make it seamless for you.
1,000%.
I like that.
Yeah. That's why I always say your experience is gonna be dictated by the people that you know, and where you're going. One person can go somewhere and have a terrible experience, somebody else can go somewhere and have a great experience, but what usually is different is that they knew the right people and the other people was just winging it by themselves, trying to figure it out. And that becomes difficult. So, it's always beneficial to actually know people and know the right people that can get things done for you.
I like that. What do you like so far about Ghana? How many days have you been here?
It's our third day.
3 days.
Yeah.
What do you like so far? Have you tried some local foods?
The food is good.
Jollof rice.
We haven't had the rice yet. Gotta have that soon, for sure.
Soon.
Today.
Yeah.
But no, everything is cool. People are very friendly, welcoming. So it's a good energy, good vibe. And then of course we had our show, so that was dope, But just been able to connect with a lot of the entrepreneurs a lot of people that's doing their thing in business and stuff like that out here. So that's been good. And we met a lot of people from America that moved to Ghana as well. So that's always cool.
Yeah, we're here to put an end to this jollof rice debate between Nigeria and Ghana. That's why we really came.
Yeah.
We're gonna put an end to this today.
Yeah, we know who's winning that one. All right. So my next question is, do you guys have like a specific goal or milestone you want to be able to achieve with the brand and your leisure? And if you do have, what is it? If you want to share with the world.
Yeah, I think this is a part of it. I think yesterday was a big step toward that, and it was to make sure that financial education was something that could be spread throughout the world. Like I said, we saw the impact that we had in the United States. We've done shows in Toronto, and we saw how people gravitated toward it. We've been in London, like we said, and Nigeria, and now Ghana. And to see people gravitate toward this information is really, really uplifting, because we know, this is the biggest impact that you can have, is to educate and inspire. And when we leave, those are the things that'll be left behind, right? What they learned from this event. And so, I mean, we want to touch as many countries as possible on the continent for sure. But why stop here? We really feel like this message is something that people need to hear, because it only helps humanity, right? The more people are educated.
People are very selfish with their idea on how to make money.
Yep.
You guys are literally giving out everything out for free. Why would you do that?
Yeah, so it's interesting when when we were doing this, people were like, we need to protect them at all costs, and I was like, protect us? They were like, yeah, you're liberating people, right? You're actually liberating people. You're freeing them, and you're freeing their mindsets, and that could be dangerous. But I never looked at it like that. I looked at the better, like my brother can be, the better we all are, right? And so I know if you don't have something in your house, soon you'll be coming to mine to get it. So our thing was like, if the information, anything that we learn, just as a natural thing, is let's teach. So that's always been the model. Whatever we learn, we teach, and whatever we get, we can give back. And so if we start that trajectory, imagine what the next generation does when they saw that people got to a level of success and they didn't hoard the information. They actually shared it with their people. So that's our thing. Let's just uplift everybody. As we build, as we climb, we build.
I like that. I want you to personally give an advice to people coming to this continent, what they should watch out for from what you've observed, some 3 tips they should pay close attention before even embarking on a journey or even coming to invest in Africa.
Just relationships. Honestly, I would try to meet people and grow your network before you do anything. Like get the lay of the land, get educated, learn about the different local culture, variety of different things. I think that you should do that anywhere you go. Like as far as get ingrained into actually know how things work on the land, and that might take time. It might take a couple of trips, but I think that would be more beneficial as opposed to just jumping into something without having a full understanding of how things work, as far as how the government works, how local natives work. So relationships is extremely important. Educate yourself is important as well.
Relationship.
So you said relationships. I would say come in with an open mind.
Open mind.
Yeah, a lot of times, especially coming from America, we feel like we know it all, and we feel more experienced, even when we come into foreign lands. So having an open mind when it comes to business, when it comes to networking, relationships, partnerships, is going to be vitally important. And understanding that you don't know. I think that's something that, we take great pride in. We're universal students. So anywhere we go, we're trying to learn the lay of the land. We're trying to learn the people. We're trying to learn the customs. We're trying to learn the traditions. So we can, take part in them. Not to impose on anybody, but actually be a part of the actual community.
Have you heard this, that Africans don't like African Americans? Have you ever heard that somewhere?
Yeah, for sure.
I've heard that.
There's always different. There's always different, narratives and different things of that nature. Vice versa too, But once again, I feel like there's always going to be ignorant people, no matter where you go, anywhere in the world. There's always going to be racism. There's always going to be classism, but that's not something that's beneficial. So I don't think that a narrative like that is helpful to anybody, because we're only stronger together, and divide and conquer. That whether Africa, it was through colonialism. America, it was through slavery. but it's the same thing, you know, as far as to pin one group against each other, to try to make one group feel like they're better than each other. And ultimately, you just keep people fighting and nobody ever goes anywhere. You keep, you know, the people that are empowered by doing that. So, you know, that way of thinking is not something that's beneficial, it's not helpful. So I definitely think that, you know, anybody should just experience things for themselves and not necessarily listen to what other people have to say, or not take one situation. You might meet one person, but one person doesn't dictate, you know, millions of people, like, you know. So I think that we all have to just have more of a open communication, open dialogue, and be comfortable. Like, you know, we have differences. Our cultures are different, but that's okay. Like, I mean, like, we don't have to have the same exact culture to appreciate each other. We can learn from each other. You can learn from our culture. We can learn from your culture. It's not that one is better than the other. You know, they each have different advantages and disadvantages. So I feel like the only way to really move forward is if we work with each other as opposed to working against each other.
I like that. Now, the way you made mention, do you think people are, I don't know, do you like conspiracies? Because people are deliberately trying to, you know, kind of make us bump heads all the time. Do you think people are intentionally doing that? Is there any force behind that you think that's trying to separate, or it's just we, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's, you know, it's a thing called propaganda. And for sure, definitely, you know, that's something that has worked very efficiently everywhere. You know, like I said, if you keep one group fighting against another group, whether it's locally or international, then it's divide and conquer, right? A fractured body is never going to be as strong as a unified body. So yeah, you put messages out there, you know, insatialize people, you highlight different things, and what that does is it just causes turmoil and dysfunction. But once again, I never looked at it like that. Like, to me, I never looked at it like that. You know, I don't care if you're from Somalia or if you're from South Africa, you're from Jamaica. If you come to America, they're gonna treat you as being black anyway. So you're not gonna get a better treatment. You know, you're not gonna get a better treatment anywhere in the world. Like, you know, if your skin looks like my skin, then they're gonna treat you like you're black. You could be light skinned, you could be dark skinned. You might get a little, you might get a little different treatment. But once again, even that is done from divide and conquer. Like, you know, they might treat somebody that's a little lighter better, but that doesn't mean that they'll ever treat you equal. So they want to just kind of, you know, segregate that so you can feel like you have something up against somebody that's darker skinned. But ultimately, I never looked at it like that. I never brought into that way of thinking. So I feel like, you know, that whole mindset, I think, is starting to change. Your social media, and like I said, music, Afro beats, everybody's collaborating in his vibes, you know. So the more that we work together, and the more that we see, you know, that we're more alike than we are different, then that's how you really gonna see some growth and some change in the world.
Yeah, it's worked, but the old system is changing, and we've seen it from a political standpoint. And now we're seeing it from a social media standpoint where, I mean, in 2018, we're talking about the year of return. Rather than just hearing about it, we actually got to see it. And we got to see people that look like us enjoying it, and a country that looks like us enjoying themselves and having opportunity. So yeah, I mean, the tide is turning. And so, you know, we want to be at the forefront of that. We want to make sure that we're doing our part. I know your platform is doing your part. So that's the beauty of it, right? Like, we can control our narratives, we can create platforms, and we have the freedom to do it. And so as long as we're shedding positive messages and changing the narrative rather than a place of charity but a place of opportunity, you know, we got to keep championing that.
I like that. Would you consider yourself African?
Huh?
Would you consider yourself African?
Do we consider ourselves African? I consider myself an American because that's what I am. That's what, you know, that's our culture, that's our tradition, that's where we come from. But of course, we all come from Africa for sure. So, you know, definitely, you know, as far as the roots of it, yeah, for sure. But I feel like, you know, our experience in America has been different, and it's shaped how we communicate, how we change, how we dress, everything, right? So we've created our own culture. So we actually, you know, are really Native American, like, as far as like America, we're the first Americans, people that was enslaved. That's before the country was even existed. So we have a claim to the country because we were there before anybody else was there. So that's how I look at myself as American. But once again, I don't really put too much title in it. I'm not like, you know, looking at that's just where we were placed in the world. That doesn't really mean anything to me. Like I don't have any superiority because I'm an American. It just so happened that that's where God placed my family. Like, you know, so that's it.
Yeah, like that. Now, I want to ask you one more question. Your upbringing, because of your mindset, right? I've met a lot of African Americans. I've met even my own skin color, right? But everybody grew up with a different ideology in terms of even tackling business or having a business mindset. How did your upbringing give you that mindset of being so financial literate to the point where you've been able to accumulate that wealth for yourself? What was it like growing up?
Yeah, I mean, I always grew up in an independent, entrepreneurial type of mindset family. Like, you know, it's like, you know, be your own boss, do it for yourself, stuff like that. That was something that was embedded in me, and not have to rely on somebody else, not have to rely on the government, not have to, you know, want to try to get a job, stuff like that. So I always had that, you know, understanding of independence. That's something that's very important, you know, for me, for sure, growing up. So, you know, just not really knowing exactly how I wanted to go about it, but I knew that, you know, I didn't really want to follow a traditional set. I knew that I didn't want to like just work a regular job. I knew that I didn't want to, you know, just fall into line as far as society tells you what, you know, the normal thing to do is. So, you know, that's extremely important as far as how you brought up, how your parents raised you. And, you know, fortunately for me, that was something that was like really taught in my household.
Where did you grow up? Where?
In New York.
New York.
Yeah.
Okay. So you grew up in a neighborhood of there's no gun violence, there's no gun banging and stuff. I'm curious.
I mean, we come from a working class neighborhood,
Yeah.
so it's not the worst neighborhood in the world. But you know, there's always issues. You know, there's issues, of course. You know, drugs, you know, different things, just peer pressure. But you know, I think once again, for both of us, you know, we was fortunate to have both of our parents in the household, our father in the household. That's something that, you know, a lot of other people that we grew up with wasn't fortunate enough to have that, you know. Unfortunately, you know, there's a lot of single parent households and there's a lot of dysfunction. And, you know, like I said, there's a lot of issues, drugs, alcohol abuse, stuff like that, which, you know, it plays a part in your upbringing, right? So, you know, yeah, you know, we all had different challenges and different, you know, peer pressure that, you know, we could have succumbed to, but I think that, you know, we had a good group of friends, a good circle. We had, you know, our community is like real strong as far as like, we had a community center for kids to go play basketball or to work during the summer. We gave opportunities to different, you know, young people. So that was a blessing to be able to, you know, have, you know, not only parents, but also, you know, other people in the community to help, you know, guide you.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think, I mean, we grew up in the same neighborhood. Our experiences are different. My parents are from Jamaica.
Okay.
And so most of the time it was the foreigner mindset. We have to assimilate to fit in. And so I grew up watching those dynamics. I grew up listening to my dad change his voice when he answered the phone.
Oh, wow.
You know what I'm saying? I watched how he moved around his friends, and I watched how he moved around his business associates. It was two different things. But financial education wasn't something that was part of it. They hadn't learned it. In fact, lessons were happening as I was a child that I never really understood until I got older. I'm like, oh, because they didn't have financial education, they made this decision, they made that decision. And so it became from a standpoint of like, I need to learn these things. The way that my dad handles money, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to handle money like that. The way my mom's managing money is really in scarcity. I don't want to move like that. And then again, having peer groups that have financial education or have wherewithal to move around those areas is beneficial. So surrounding yourself with the right people is important. And granted that we had a neighborhood like that, and that's why community is so important. We had a neighborhood like that where it was, you know what, I'm doing well, I can learn from him, he's doing well, I'm learning from her, she's doing well. And that's how community grows. And that's why when we talk about family, like when we talk about earning your leisure yourself, I mean, our community is inside of our business. It's our family and it's community members that we've known for pretty much our whole lives.
I like that. Give one advice for someone in that situation, around the bad community, bad friends that want to be able to get out of that. What would you say they should do in order to, you know, kind of get on a different trajectory to where you guys probably are now?
I mean, I think you just gotta find positive people and that could be challenging at times. But you gotta really search it out, right? Whether that's leaving your area and going to a different school, or joining a group, joining a religious organization, joining a sorority, joining, playing sports, stuff like that is always beneficial and helpful. Just trying to be around people that's, more positive, as opposed to just hanging out with people that's doing nothing. Be around people that's doing something, and I feel like that alone could it's what we call positive peer pressure. If you're around people that's actually doing something, then you yourself will want to do something as well. If you're around people that's doing nothing, then it's easy to just fall into that negativity. And so yeah, I'm a big proponent of sports. I played sports my whole life, and I feel like that's a great way to just occupy your time and teach you discipline, keep you in shape, but just be around a good group of people, and you learn a lot from playing sports. So definitely encourage all children and all parents to put their kids in sports. But like I said, there's other stuff. There's musical groups. You can join a choir, join whatever. Just be part of a group. Being part of a group, a collective, is something that's extremely important, and helps uplift you, as opposed to just being by yourself.
Yeah, I think finding value in those things is important too. A lot of times we're not looking at the person who's the head of the boys ministry, or the teacher, or the mailman, or the guy who owns the barbershop as somebody that I can get insight from or find inspiration from. There's so much more to them, right? Like if they looked at my book, they'd say like, he's a phys ed teacher, what does he know about finance? And that's fine, but there's so much more to a person than just their profession. So we got to find value in everybody. I mean, somebody has a story, and everybody has a certain level of knowledge that they can share. So we just got to seek it.
I like that. Now, I've seen what Emmy on the job become now. I have a YouTube channel with 50,000 subscribers. I want to be like you guys. Give me an advice. What do you think I should do moving forward? That's it.
Consistency is extremely important. Originality. Figure out what's not being done, and how you can add variety to it and put your spin on it. That's what we really did. It's just nobody was doing what we was doing, so we just did that, and then we were just extremely consistent. So creativity, originality, and consistency are the three pillars.
I would say, in addition to that, I would study my analytics, see what's working, what's not working, see when your audience is watching, see when they're not watching, and really drill down on that, right? See, where is your audience? Like you said, we knew that we had an audience in Nigeria and Ghana because we looked at our analytics. It wasn't just a guess.
Wow.
We just were like, hey, we're coming here. Yeah. Oh, there's an audience here. Wait, we've charted #1 here for 10 weeks in a row. Yeah. There's an audience here. And so studying the data and then implementing it in real time is important as well.
I like that. Yeah. Give a final message to the people watching you, if you have any.
Yeah, once again, I feel like, opportunity is, the time is now. We live in a day and age where the world is moving very quickly. You have artificial intelligence. You have so much stuff happening with technology that, it's empowering people, but it's also going to put a lot of people in danger if they're not, educated on what's going on. So don't wait. Don't, take the time now. That the next 10 to 5 years, the next 5 to 10 years is going to be, a game changer, and the whole entire world is going to completely change. So I feel like now's your opportunity to figure it out, to educate yourself as much as possible, take risk, start a business, collaborate, do a variety of different things. At the end of the day, you really don't have anything to lose, especially if you don't have much anyway. So I feel like, now is the time. Like, just take action. I think procrastination is the biggest threat when it comes to people's success. It's easy to just put things off, or success loves speed. That's the biggest difference between people that's really successful and people that's not. Everybody has good ideas, but the people that's successful can execute and act on their ideas in real time. Other people, they want to just wait. It's not perfect. They want to try to get more money. They want to get relationships. So, being able to execute in real time is something that's extremely important.
Yeah, I'll just say, if you learn nothing else from us, is take imperfect actions. Like I said, we started with an iPhone and an idea, and we're able to do a live show in Accra, Ghana, in 4 years, which is pretty incredible. So yeah, take imperfect action. Start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can.
All right, guys, where we are currently filming is called Biru. Biru is a co-working space located in the middle of Accra, Osu. If you're moving from the US, UK, the diaspora, and you're working remotely, you want somewhere with stable internet, electricity, you don't have to worry about doom so, which is a light going off and on. This is the right place for you, so come check it out. The name is on the screen and also link in the description. And this has been an amazing episode. Thank you guys so much for coming and being on the show and share your knowledge with my audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us, man.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.